grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursuit of wealth.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast with Mr. Jace Wright. Today, we are going to dive deep into why investing is important. We've talked a little bit about saving money, being smart financially, putting money aside so that you can start investing. But why? Why should you invest, Jace?
Because if you don't, you will, for the rest of your life or until the government is ready to pay you after you retire, which you don't want to bank on that, you will spend hours for dollars.
100%. You need, the only way to stop working is to be able to have money to live off of.
Yep.
That does not require your time anymore. And the government does give you some money at 65. That money does not go very far.
No. Especially in today's economy.
Oh.
It's probably just going to get worse.
And rumor has it, we shouldn't even count on that because it probably will not be existent by the time we retire.
It's just going to dissolve.
It's just going to be gone. We're contributing to it,
why not?
with our tax dollars, but who knows if we'll actually get a benefit from the program. Because I think it's only like $2,500 or like $3,000 a month in Social Security that you get.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Like, what can you do for? I mean, you can't even cover your rent with $2,500 a month right now.
No.
So don't count on that. You should definitely have your own stuff going on. And if for some reason it is still available and there's some money in there when you're 65 that you can get from Social Security, awesome. It's just a cherry on top. But
you got to wait till you're 65 for that, though.
That's insane. And the other benefit is, or the other main reason investing is important, is because of a good thing, or not a good thing, a bad thing, called inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, essentially, every year for sure, your dollar is becoming less and less valuable because of inflation. And so we're going to talk about inflation. We're going to talk about a concept with inflation and why it's important to start buying assets that essentially are going to go up in value as a dollar gets decreased. It's kind of a hedge. You look at a lot of people, once you do start accumulating wealth, wealthy people don't like to hold cash. You hear the phrase, cash is trash.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hold assets because and the reason is because the wealthy understand this game. They understand inflation, and they know if they have their money in assets, they're going to be protected because those asset values are going to go up with inflation. So let's talk a little bit about the history of inflation. So we've got a graph here. We'll have Kyle throw it up, but we'll kind of talk about it as well. So if you're listening on Spotify or anything, the graph that we're looking at is a cumulative inflation graph, basically from 1913 to 2025. I'll kind of spin this over so you can see it as well, Jace.
Cool.
You can really see that the big spike, like inflation was there was obviously inflation happening from like 1913 all the way up till 1970, but it was like marginal.
Mm-hmm.
And then from 1970, you see just catastrophic increases. And the reason is, inflation really started going up. Like we went off the gold standard. And then it kind of, basically what that means is like all the money that was in circulation was basically backed by gold. So we had to have that much gold to be able to have the money that was in circulation. Well, when you went off the gold standard, we could basically just print money.
Mm-hmm.
So like if the government needed money, you just print it. Like it's not backed by anything now. And so that's where we start to see inflation really take off. So we're going to go back to, and we went off the gold standard actually in 1913. So it's been like a really long time. And that's where we just start to see inflation really, really start to kick off. But let's go back to 1971 and kind of see how this all actually looks. So this is the cost of living back in 1971. A new house cost $25,200. The average income was $10,622. So you look at, average income was only $10,000, but it's like, okay, to buy a house, it was like double your income.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say average income today is $70,000, can you buy a house for $140,000?
You can. It's just not going to be ideal.
And that won't be a house.
It might be a trailer.
It may be in a park without land. A new car back then was $3,500. So like a third of your average income.
That's almost some people's payment on a car monthly.
Just insane, huh? $3,500. I wish. Average rent was $150 a month. Okay. And we're going to talk about this. Like rent in 1970 was $150 a month. Think about people that have been renting since 1970. It's like rent's drastically gone up. So when people talk about like, hey, it's better to rent than buy because it's cheaper to rent. It's cheaper to rent now. Talk to me whether it's cheaper to rent 10 years from now. And with a mortgage, like you're locking in that payment for 30 years. So that is really the true benefit of home ownership. Tuition was $2,600 a year back then. A movie ticket was $150, and gasoline 40 cents a gallon. Which none of this
movie ticket, bro.
Oh,
that doesn't even get you a soda.
No, you can't even get $1.50. Like you can't get anything.
You can't get water
for
$1.50.
No, you go to Maverick, water's like $3. You can't even get like a granola bar. Dude, I get a protein bar at Maverick. It's like $4 for a protein bar. I'm like, dude, yeah, it's insane. And then if you look at like grocery, bacon was 80 cents a pound back then. Eggs, 45 cents per dozen. Dude, we hit like a peak. It was like $12 a dozen at one point.
It was almost $1 an egg.
Which was insane. It was 45 cents for a dozen. But let's look at basically, if you look at the increase of housing, so we take a new house back then cost $25,000. This was about 50 years ago, 1971. In that period, we basically seen a 16x in pricing. So the average price of a home today is $400,000. So let's fast forward. If we're going to stay on this same trajectory, what does the next 50 years look like? Mm-hmm. Well, if we 16x again over the next 50 years, which is likely, it's like, dude, average home price is going to be like 6.4 million, which sounds absolutely insane when we think about it. But if you would have told like our great grandparents in 1971 that the average home price is going to be 400,000 and currently it was 25,000, they'd be like, you're retarded.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. It's not feasible. But we're here.
Yeah.
And so I always like to, look back at history, and unless something crazy changes, which it doesn't look, it actually looks like it's getting worse. Inflation over the last 5 years has been worse than it's been over the last 50 years. So, or the rate is worse. This is likely. And household income has risen from 10K to around 100K in the same period. If you look at like national average, where I think we're still under, we're about 70-ish in Idaho. I think national average is like 80 something. So roughly 10, it's like maybe an 8X over that same period of time. So an 8X in income, but a 16X in housing cost. And this is from like the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Like the government is providing the statistics and these calculators that I'm going to use. So we know that these are probably not even telling the whole story. Mm-hmm. Like they're not giving you the actual inflation. They're giving you this is based off of CPI numbers. If you think inflation is actually worse than they're telling us, like these numbers they're even more dramatic.
Yeah.
So in 1971, the U.S. debt was $400 million, and today it's $36 trillion, which is insane. It's nearly a 90,000x jump over a 50-year period. And the only way the U.S. government is going to stop inflation or be able to handle this debt service like we talked about on our last podcast is likely to print more money. And so I think this is going to get even worse over the next 5-10 years. The U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its value since 1913. 97% of its value in just a little over 100 years. And now we get to the actual CPI inflation calculator. This is where things get kind of mind-blowing. So I'm going to go in a 10-year period, and then we're going to go in a 5-year period so you can kind of see the difference. But 10 years ago, in 2016, if you had $100,000, today, in 2026, you need $140,000 to have the same buying power.
Okay.
So whatever you could buy with $100,000 10 years ago, you need $140,000 today.
Yep.
Which is a 40% jump.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last 10 years, if you haven't made 40% more money, you've essentially lost buying power.
And I think that's where this gets really crazy, and why we're trying to hit on this so hard is because, especially if you're in the corporate world, you're on a fixed salary more than likely.
Yep.
If you're lucky, you get a raise a year. If you're lucky.
Yeah. And usually what is that?
maybe 10%.
If that,
If
maybe
that.
3%.
Yeah. Like it depends, right? Yeah. But that's if you're lucky, first of all, but you're falling behind. You're essentially taking a pay cut without knowing it.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy, because then if you just don't think about it, you get on your high horse because, yeah, I got a raise, I feel good, like sweet, like whatever. In 5 years, you're going to be in the same exact position
Or worse.
Yeah. Because you're losing.
Everything's going up in value.
Money. Yeah.
Everything's going up in value, and your salary isn't going up at the same pace.
Yes.
So your ability to purchase things is going down. And then you look at, so we, just for fun too, I went back to 1971.
Oh boy.
Because you can do this on that calculator.
Uh-huh.
So if you had $100,000 in 1971, you need $830,000 today. That's an 8x. You need 8 times the money to have the same buying power.
That's crazy.
What's crazy is that's 30, 40, 50, 55 years ago, essentially. If you're in your 20s, let's say 55 and 20s, I mean, that'd be like, you'd put you in your 70s, when you retire. If you're planning today, if we follow the same track and you're planning today that you need, $1 million, I want $1 million in today's dollars to be able to retire. Well, by the time you're actually 70, you might actually need $8 million. And that's where I think people get confused. It's like we use these high numbers as like, oh, in today's dollars, if I had $1 million invested at a 4% return, I can get $40,000 a year. Awesome. Well, by the time you actually retire, that $1 million isn't going to be worth nearly what it's worth today. And so you're probably going to need 5 to 8 times that amount of money for you to live the same life that you could today on those dollars.
And that's where, like, we've preached this a couple times. We've said the terminology that the price is going to come due at some point. Like, you're going to have to sacrifice to either invest and sacrifice on some things that you might want or lifestyle now so that you can live like nobody else later, or you're going to reach the age of 65 and you're going to go work and be a door person at Walmart.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford to retire.
Yeah.
Like, you're either going to sacrifice when you're 65 or you're going to sacrifice now. But at some point you have to sacrifice. We're obviously on the side of sacrificing now. And I don't want the word sacrifice to scare people, because it is, but it isn't. It's just being intentional. It's being disciplined. And if you can apply those things, you won't run into this problem later on in life.
And it's hard to say that's even a sacrifice, because to say that it's a sacrifice is assuming that you should or you deserve to spend all the money that you make. So like, I'm sacrificing because I should be able to spend all this money, but I'm sacrificing because I'm saving some. If you just rewired your brain and were like, I cannot and will not spend all the money that I make. Like, I have to 20% right off the bat goes to my future. Mm-hmm. And then I can figure out, spending the rest of the money. But it's this entitlement of thinking like, well, I worked hard for this money, so I should be able to go spend it without having to save or plan for my future. Then it feels like a sacrifice. But like the mentality is you should never spend all the money that you make.
And the argument that probably some people are going to have is, well, okay, I only make $80,000. It's $100,000 to live. So I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to survive at this point. And that's probably where the word sacrifice comes into play. But to your point, you're probably still driving a decent car.
Yes.
You're probably still going out to eat on occasion. You've probably got some subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube TV, whatever. You're not sacrificing yet. You're
correct.
And so that's where I agree with you. And so that's why we want to point that out is, yes, we understand and we're not naive to the fact that we're all just trying to survive at this point. Like, inflation's catching up with everybody. We're all trying to survive, but sacrifice on the stupid stuff.
I think if 2 generations ago, like our great-grandparents looked at the lives that we live, the lives that we say we're sacrificing, they'd be like, you are not, we are not sacrificing.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we have no idea what actual sacrifice looks like, because our way of living has just improved at such a substantial rate.
Yep.
That, there's ways, like if you were really sacrificing, you'd live with family. You guys would, a few family members would get together, you'd rent a house, you'd double up in rooms. Like there'd be ways to do it. Like, but 90% of people are not at that stage. So to say you're sacrificing, but you're not at those stages, you're not sacrificing.
Yeah.
Like you're living comfortably and you're saying like, oh, just to get by, I need to spend this money, but it's really just for you to live comfortably, which is fine. I'm like, if you want to live comfortably, great, but make more money or make sacrifices in other areas. Don't drive the nice car. Maybe don't even have a car. If you want to have a nice house or something, maybe you ride your bike, get a house close to work, and you ride a bike to work. Like there's actual things that are sacrifice. But we're just, and we have no idea what that looks like. Like our great grandparents went through like the Great Depression. There was actual sacrifices that were made.
Right.
And that's why the baby boomers saved so much money. It was because they went through a tough time and then they realized like, hey, I don't want to go through and have to do these things. And I'm going to save more money so that I can survive if anything like this were to happen again.
Yeah.
The last 20 years has been like, I mean,
we got it so easy.
We got it so easy. I mean, the hardest thing was the financial crisis in 2008, which has been almost 20 years ago. And like all our generation, we were in school. So it's like,
I was 13 years old. I didn't know.
You didn't know what was actually going on.
What was going
Our
on.
parents had to deal with it, obviously.
Yeah.
But even then it was like, it was hard, but it was nothing like the Great Depression where people were starving and out of work and all this stuff.
Right.
Granted, people were out of work in 2008, but anyway, I'm just saying like the last 15 years, we've had nothing but up. So like our generation only knows the good times.
Yeah.
We don't know what actual sacrifice is. And knock on wood, hopefully we never actually have to. But
if you start investing, you won't have to.
You start investing, if you have money aside and you won't have to worry about those certain things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is the last kind of comparison we'll use with the inflation calculator, but going back 10 years, obviously we talked about that. You've got about a 40% increase. The crazy thing is, if you just go back 5 years, 2020 to 2025, we saw that's where 25% of that increase occurred.
Wow.
25% happened between 2020 and 2025. Why?
COVID.
What did they do during COVID?
Gave people money.
Gave you free money, baby.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Print it.
Everybody gets a check.
Free check. Stay home.
Stay home. Here's a check. Where those checks come from? They printed money.
Yep.
And what does that do when they just print money and put more money in circulation without any really like services being rendered? That just devalues the dollar. And so it feels good at the time.
Oh, we all enjoyed getting that check.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And majority of those checks went to
dumb
stuff, man. and because of that, now everybody's money's worth less, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's weird to think about it that way.
Even if you didn't want the check, your money is not worth less.
Yep.
So it's the frustrating part is it's out of our control. The only thing you can do is create a hedge for yourself, buy assets, because as they printed money, what happened to home values? What happened to the stock market? Everything went up.
Yep.
Any asset went up in value because there's more money in circulation. There's more buyers and more demand for assets. People could afford more things because there's more money in circulation. And so the true winners are the asset owners, the investors, the people,
business owners. Yep.
Business owners. Everything becomes more expensive. If you own assets, all those values went up as well. So those are the true winners. That's the problem, is like the wealthier just get wealthy. That's why our wealth gap is so big right now. There's this quote from Adam Smith. He said, the problem with fiat money, which fiat money is just like essentially like our dollars, it's our paper currency, is that it rewards the minority that can handle money, but fools the generation that has worked and saved money. So smart people that understand how fiat money works and how inflation works benefit from this fiat money system. The ones that don't benefit are the ones that value the dollar and just want to stock it away into a savings account, not understanding inflation, that all the money that they have in the bank that they're just saving that's not working for them is losing value year over year.
And that's what's crazy, is because, I mean, at least this was for me, maybe it was for you too. We were taught growing up to save. I remember getting a lawn mowing job as a teenager and a kid starting to make my own money, right? I was taught you put 10% away for religion and you put 10% away for savings.
Yeah.
And it just sits there. I was never taught what to do with it, or it was just save it for a rainy day.
Yep.
And that was it. And it trickles because you mentioned like the Great Depression, the baby boomers. It came from that. That's where that came from. They taught their kids taught their kids, and their kids taught us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to break that cycle because, to your point, it will not work for you now.
You need to put money aside.
Yes.
But it needs to be invested.
Yes. It's not put in a bank account.
Yes.
It will not keep up.
And that's it. Like, I want to make this clear. We're saying save money each month with your paycheck, but make sure that money's not in a bank account. Make sure it's actually working for you, because if it's not, it's losing money. Mm-hmm. So you're losing it to inflation. And if you talk to any wealthy person, multimillionaires, even a billionaire, you ask them how much money they actually have in cash, very little percentage of their net worth. They have everything else invested, because they understand this.
Yep.
They don't, a billionaire is not carrying $100 million in cash in a savings account. Like, they have all their money invested into stocks, bonds, treasuries, real estate. They have it somewhere that they know is going to, be getting some either interest or is in a hard asset that's going to go up in value with inflation.
Yep.
And so talk to any wealthy person ask them how much, of your net worth, how much do you have in cash? And I bet you it's a very, very small percentage. But yet the average person that barely has any savings, it's all in cash. Mm-hmm. And so
because they don't know where to put it.
They don't know where to put it.
Yep.
And this is the case. So there's a concept called, and this is where things get a little bit more in depth. So you understand inflation, you understand the cost of inflation, you understand how much inflation has damaged us the last few years. There's a concept called inflation-induced debt destruction. I'm gonna preface, we're not financial advisors. Buying or investing in anything, you do it at your own risk. Here's a concept. This is just a concept that I believe in, and I think is going to be even more powerful over the next 10 years. So I think it's a good concept to share. But basically, if you look back, there's a sheet here that we'll throw up, and it talks about, basically we're just using annual inflation numbers and talking about buying a property with debt, and how using debt, basically inflation over time pays down your debt for you. Because if you have an interest rate even if your interest rate is 6%, if you think inflation is more than 6% a year, which to each their own, you decide what you think inflation is, then essentially inflation is paying down your debt over time. And so as a dollar gets devalued, your debt becomes cheaper. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at this example this is a real example of somebody that had bought a home back in, I think back in 1972, the value of the house was $18,000. Their mortgage amount was $14,000. So they took out a note or a loan for $14,000 at an interest rate of 7.37%. So you're like, man, that's crazy. For 30 years, and the mortgage term, the mortgage payment was $100 a month, which is insane. And so loan to value was 80%. And we're just going to assume that their tax rate was 33%. We won't get too into the weeds with the tax stuff too. But basically all we're looking at is, so $100 a month, essentially. So their payment is $1,200 a year. In 1972, $1,200 a year, let's just say that's how it's $1,200. Okay. 10 years down the road, 1982, just adjusted for annual inflation, government, what the government said CPI was over those 10 years, the dollar it was now 46 cents for every dollar. So the $1,200 a year that she was paying for the mortgage really only felt like $524 in that day's dollar. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the best way I can try to help dumb that down in Jace terms,
yes,
for a sec, is so as you print more money, we're going to actually use $100 bills.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say I have $500 bills. Well, in 10 years, to have the equal amount of value,
buying power
mm-hmm. for $500 bills, I will need to have 7 or 8.
Correct.
Of the paper $100 bills. So if we're taking out debt, we're still only owing $500, but because of inflation, it's worth less. So I have the 7 or 8, but I'm still only paying the 5.
Correct.
Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah. Essentially. So it is your payment is still $1,200, mm-hmm. but in 10 years, it's like, even say, for example, today, if we have a payment of $1,200 in 10 years because of inflation, because of, incomes going up, everything else increasing, $1,200 is not going to feel as expensive as it does today because your buying power has decreased with that. Essentially, now that to fill that same pain of $1,200 even in your bank account, you might have to lose like $2,500. Because if you go back even 5 years ago, let's say pre-COVID, if you had a mortgage payment of like I had a mortgage payment of $1,400.
Yep, mine was 12.
I felt like it was high. Like, dude, $1,400 a month? That's insane. Today, $1,400, dude, like feels like nothing.
Give me 5.
Yeah, $1,400 is cheap, but it's because inflation. Like the dollar has become so much less valuable, and there's more money in circulation. We have more money.
But that's what's crazy. So, like in theory, let's say I kept the same job.
Yep.
Okay, I was making X amount of dollars. I was okay with $1,200. Well, boom, we increase. My paycheck's going to increase because I'm getting whatever salary, but the monthly payment stays the same on the house.
Correct.
I'm looking like I've made it.
Yes.
Because it's the same payment. And if I was to go buy a house for the same amount of value in 5 years, that payment's going to be tripled.
Correct.
That's the value of what we're trying to get at here.
Correct. If you talk to anybody, you're like, my parents' payment on their house is $800 a month. Well, yeah, because they have a fixed payment that they locked in 15 years ago.
Yes.
And $800 a month sounds cheap now. 15 years ago when they got that mortgage, $800 felt expensive. Mm-hmm. But as the dollar has decreased in value, it feels less and less expensive. And so, and that's all just because of inflation, because everything's gone up in price. And then there's been more money into circulation.
And it's going to happen. Like you said, it's almost out of our control.
It is out of our control.
Because companies will have to follow it. Like, you're not just not going to get a raise, or the company will go under, because the companies have to follow inflation essentially. So if you're corporate owned, they will follow it to a certain extent. They won't keep up with it. Yeah. But there will be a dramatic increase.
Because they increase prices of goods.
Yep.
So they make more money. Then they carry off a little bit more of that. They increase salaries. They have to retain people. Like, you can't retain anybody. I mean, probably 10 years ago, if you're paying $30,000 a year, you could get somebody.
Yep.
Employ. Right now, you can't get anybody for $30,000 a year.
Dude, like, it's crazy. Minimum wage. We talk about that all the time. Minimum wage growing up it was like $7 an hour.
Yep.
Minimum wage. You're not going to get anybody at a McDonald's for less than 15.
Yeah.
That's the point we're making.
Correct. So everything has gone up, and it will. And it's this. If you look back at history, this has happened for the last 100+ years. Why would it change? Unless there's something dramatic that changes in the economy, like, this isn't going to change. It's going to continue to trend this way. Mm-hmm. And if we look at what the government's probably going to do when it has to refinance all this debt at the end of the year, they're probably going to turn that money printer back on and print more money into circulation, and that's just going to make the dollar devalue, which the government understands this concept. They understand that they can reduce their debt by devaluing the dollar. And so they're playing this game on a very large scale. This is kind of so we'll basically look at here, mortgage size. It basically, this accounts, like, it shows you what your interest rate adjusted for inflation is. So the mortgage was $14,000. In nominal dollars to repay, they're going to repay a total of $36,000 at an interest rate of 7.37% over the term of the loan. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at it, inflation adjusted dollars to repay, they're really only going to repay $16,000 because of inflation over the 30-year period. So really, you're getting a loan for $14,000, paying back $16,000 over a 30-year period. And the inflation adjusted interest rate on that money that you're borrowing is 1%. So annual inflation adjusted payments, basically this graph just shows, okay, from 1972, they were paying $1,200 a month. By like 2000, it really only feels like they're paying $300 a month for their mortgage. Not even a month, sorry. That was $1,200 a year because their payment was $100 a month. It feels like they're only paying $300 a year by the time they're paying it off in 2001.
Because so that's why people, especially in real estate, saying buying and holding is very, very, very valuable.
So valuable. But there's not a better investment. And there's people that say, okay, stocks are the best investment. Pull up Claude, ChatGPT, Claude, pull up any AI, Grok, whatever you want to use for AI, and ask it this question. Over the last 10, 20, 30 years, would it have been better for me to use $100,000 and invest that into the stock market or invest it into leveraged real estate? The key there is with real estate, you can leverage. You're leveraging debt to buy a bigger asset that appreciates. So when people look at this, they're like, well, average home values have only appreciated by 3 to 4% annually, and the stock market's returned 12%. I'm like, but if I have $100,000, I put that $100,000 in the stock market, I get 12% on my 100,000.
Correct.
If I put 100,000 into real estate, I can buy a $400,000 asset. I get 3 to 4% return on a $400,000 asset. If I'm renting it out, they're like, well, you're paying, interest costs. I'm not paying anything. If I'm renting it out, my renter is covering the payment, which includes taxes, insurance, and the interest on the payment. They're covering all that. And then if I can also, and then let's say I'm smart and I'm wanting to get a 10% cash on cash return whenever I'm investing into a real estate property. Let's say even get 8% return. Okay, I'm getting 8% return on my cash, plus I'm getting appreciation on the total asset. So if you look at your actual return on leveraged real estate over a 10, 20 year period, it crushes the stock market. But when financial advisors love to play it just like apples for apples, 100 grand, 100 grand. Well, it's like, yes, if you're not going to use leverage, put your money in the stock market. But if you are going to use leverage, it's a very powerful tool. And then if you also understand the concept of inflation and inflation basically paying down your debt over time, real estate is an awesome tool. Mm-hmm. And then that doesn't even take into account the tax benefits. Then if you talk about cost segregating your property and saving on taxes, the returns are fantastic. And that's why I'm so bullish on real estate for this concept, because you could go leverage into the stock market. That's very risky. You don't have when you leverage into real estate, if you run your numbers right, you have a renter that's usually paying for that debt service and everything. If you leverage into the stock market and the stocks go down, you can get a capital call and you got to contribute back to that. It could get really scary. So I would definitely not recommend using leverage in the stock market. But leveraged in real estate, when you understand what you're doing, is a really cool tool. So it's nearly impossible to save your money to wealth or save your way to wealth. You have to start investing into assets. I think this is going to become so prevalent over the next 10 years. I have a coach out of Scottsdale, and he was actually somebody from the mastermind group actually taught a course, or essentially did a presentation about inflation due debt destruction. And in my coach leading it had never really heard of the concept. And this was 3 years ago that they talked about this. He is so bullish on it, and really bullish on it now because of what he thinks the government is going to be doing over the next 5 years to get out of the debt situation that we are as a nation. And so getting long-term fixed debt on real estate assets, I think is such a good way to fight inflation and protect your wealth long-term. Now, this is where people get confused. Buying and holding long-term real estate is not a wealth building tool. Yes, it's a wealth building tool over time, but it's not going to bring you active dollars today.
Right.
And so when people are like, I want to go make money buying and holding rental real estate, it's like the cash flow on it for the first few years is not great. It's, you might make
a lot of money in to make $100, $200 a month.
Correct. Yeah. It is a wealth preservation tactic. I look at. It's like, once you have a good active income, you need to put that active income somewhere, and you want to shelter it against inflation and also have a good return. So if you can go get a property and get a decent cash on cash return, plus, have inflation pay down your debt for you, hold the asset over a 10, 20 year period, it's going to look really good for you at the end. But if you're like, hey, I'm only making $40,000, I need to you should first get your active income up, like we've talked about. Don't jump right into investing in real estate. And even if you save your first $50,000 to $100,000, I'm really passionate about this, don't dump that into real estate. Because again, real estate is a long game. You spend a lot of time getting that money. You want to see some return. You need to return that. You need to return that money and grow it to a bigger nest egg first. And then when you just have an extra 100 grand that you're like, hey, I've got maybe 200-300 grand saved up, and I can continue to use that money into more active returns, I'm going to park this over here because also I want to reduce my tax bill and build long-term wealth. I look at deals that my buddies bought 3 to 4 years ago. I'm like, dude, you're buying like cash flow wasn't very great. I just wouldn't buy. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't feel comfortable buying that. I think there's better ways to put my money. Now I look at those deals 5 years later and I'm like, dude, they're crushing.
Yeah.
Because rents have gone up, asset values have gone up. And I don't think that we're going to see asset values continue to increase at the pace that they did. So let me preface with that. Like 2020 to 2025 was an unreal time for asset valuations increasing. But even if you take that crazy situation out and you go like from 2015 to 2020, 2019, before everything skyrocketed, like every deal looks good in 5 years.
Yep.
Because of inflation. And as you get farther down your amortization schedule with a mortgage, you're getting more principal pay down year 5 than you are year 1, and a lot more year 10, year 15. So if you want to build long-term wealth, buying and holding real estate is one of the best tools to do it. Now, it's not an active income generating machine though. Just want to preface that. Real estate could be used, like if you want to flip properties, that's more active and gets you better returns on your money. Do hard money lending, that gives you better returns on your money. But once you have enough money accumulated, I don't think there's anything better than long-term real estate holds. And you look at, the ultra wealthy all understand this. They all have money in real estate. Large apartment buildings, it can be as a hedge, but also because they know that they are accumulating enough money, they just need somewhere for it to park that's going to, preserve their wealth and hopefully accumulate more asset value over time. What are your initial thoughts with that?
It's a fascinating concept, man, because number one, I can't emphasize enough how important it is. Like don't want to get too sappy here a little bit, but the lesson I learned from my dad is he was stuck in that rat race, desperate trying to get out for his whole life till the end. The biggest regret that we've got was time spent with him, right? That's the ultimate goal, is to give you more time to do the things that you want to do, to buy the things that you want to buy, so that we can just stop surviving and start thriving, right? Yep. The only way to do that is to invest, is the only way. I can't emphasize that enough. It's not going to magically appear to you. If you're a kid waiting for your parents to die so that you can get some money,
that's a sad
thing to do. And I bring that up because I've seen it.
Yeah.
People are betting their wealth on when their parents die and they get an inheritance. That's awful. You've got to take the initiative now. You've got to start making the moves now. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because it's crucial if you want to thrive in life. This
really kind of hits the biggest thing is like, well, you could go make active income, and obviously that's going to get you more active income is the fastest way to start living a better life, obviously. But if you start making good active income and you start spending all that active income, you're never going to get off the hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. So like the only way off the hamster wheel is through investing. There's no other way. Because we just showed you, even just saving isn't going to get you off the hamster wheel, because you can save $1 million, but in 20 years, that $1 million isn't going to be worth really anything. Definitely not what it's worth in today's dollars. And so the point is like, you have to start putting money aside, and you have to figure out where you want to invest that money. It doesn't need to go into real estate. You don't need to get leverage and do real estate. You can do the stock market, buy gold, just buy an asset that is going to go up in value, and make sure that you have assets, because the wealth gap has gotten so big over the last 10 years because of asset values increasing. And those that had assets, dude, everybody complains about the pump. I haven't even looked at what gas is. Like, because it doesn't matter. For me, like, as all these things have gone up with inflation, so is all my asset values. So like, I'm living the same life, if not a better life, because of what the economy's done. And the wealthy have all said that. Like, the wealthy people they don't care inflation, they're like, cool, I've got assets. Let inflation run. That's not, to an extent, inflation could get out of control and we're all like, it's not a good thing for anybody. But to an extent, they're like, dude, the last 5 years has been awesome. All my stocks are up. all my real estate is up. Like my net worth's up. I'm making more money than I ever have. Life's good. Those that don't have assets, those that haven't had assets over the last 5 years, all they see is all my groceries bill gone up. My gas bill's gone up. My car payment, like to afford a car, has gone up. My rent has increased. If I want to buy a house, housing has now become almost unattainable. But all of that is because you didn't have any assets that were going up in value as this craziness over the last 5 years occurred.
I'll say it's assets. And then the other thing that we hammer down, I think almost every episode, but I can't say it enough, is you've got to stop increasing your lifestyle with the money that you incrementally get. If you get that raise, you are negatively compounding against yourself by increasing your lifestyle. Because not only is inflation caught up with your ass, but you're also buying new stuff that is costing you more money. And that's why you feel like you can't ever get off the hamster wheel. And to your point, like let's say you bought a house 5 years ago. Most people, and statistics show that in the next 2 to 5 years, you're going to turn around and sell that house and try to buy another one. I'd argue that probably half, maybe more than that, I'm going to be conservative and say half that time, that is not necessary. You're not moving for a job. You haven't had any new kids. You don't need a newer house. You just see that you've got $100,000 in equity and you want the same monthly payment. So you take that equity and dump it into a newer house. Well, that's today's dollars now that you're spending. You're negatively compounding yourself versus if you were comfortable staying in that house for 10 years, you're living life.
That's where you see the real benefit.
That's where you see the benefit. So it's investing, but then it's also being disciplined enough to stop increasing your lifestyle when your wages go up or when you see an increase or when the government gives you $2,500 because of COVID. Don't go buy a freaking new car. You don't need it. And if we can learn that, that's going to be incremental too.
Yeah.
Because everybody's, well, where do I put the money? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? I get that. I'm with you on that. I don't know where to put it yet. We're still working on that. So let's focus on what we can control right now. And that's get disciplined with your finances. Stop spending money just because you have it. Put it aside so that you do have the opportunity to invest it versus in 10 years be like, oh shit, I don't have money to invest and I feel like I'm going nowhere.
Yeah.
It's crucial. It's crucial.
I love it. Preach. I'm about to say preach.
Sorry,
Jason's getting passionate.
I'm getting passionate about it.
Yeah. No, but it's true. It's like that is the greatest asset. When you can lock in your living expenses, housing, food costs, everything else, and be like, okay, this is what we are spending as a household. And if you can lock that in for 10 years and inflation's going to occur. So like, if you have a little bit of margin there, like make sure there's a little bit of margin as things get more costly that you can still live off of that. But if you can lock that in and as you get increases in income, you don't spend it. You just still live off of this number that you have for your household burn expenses. Life will become so much easier in 10 years. You will have so much more. You'll have way more options and you'll be way less stressed. But the stress comes from you increasing your life at a pace that causes you to continue to work. Like I see so many guys work extremely hard and then buy all this new stuff. So then they have to go continue to work extremely hard. Where it's like, if you just worked extremely hard, start investing and saving money.
The stuff you got now is fine.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff.
If you just broke that habit of like, I don't need to go reward myself for this. Like I actually am rewarding myself by just investing in my future, buying back my time, buying back my opportunities, because now I don't have to work 5 days a week. Maybe I can work 4 days a week. I don't have to take every opportunity that comes across my plate because I have options now. The craziest thing I've seen is like, as you have money, your obviously your options just increase, and opportunities come to those that have money. And so like investment opportunities, if you don't have like cash available or liquid funds available, you're never going to get the best opportunities. We talk about like, 12% return in the S&P 500 over, the last however many years. It's like that. Yeah, that's a good return, but like you get like crazy returns when you have liquid cash and can take advantage of situations where cash is needed. the best investors, I mean, you look at like some private equity firms and stuff, dude, private equity, I think the average private equity return on is like 25% a year. It's double. But you can only get into those private equity things if you have like large amounts of capital that you can invest with private equity. And so it's like the more money you have, the more options and opportunities become available to you. So you need to start saving so that you can start getting some of those opportunities. Everybody says like your first million is the hardest. The second's easy. Well, why? Because you're going to get way more opportunities and options that come to you to invest in. Mm-hmm. You're going to get to pick the cream of the crop. You're going to, you have just way more potential to grow those funds than you would, getting up to that first million. And so whatever you do, and really it's even like the first $100,000. It's like once you get the first $100,000 saved, the next 100 is way easier. And it's just, the game just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I can't like get your first 10 grand and then really push to invest and get to your first 100 grand saved and invested. And once you have that, you'll start to see the rewards and how that compounds over time. And I promise you, it happens faster than you think. It sounds really daunting to start saving money. Like I can only save $500 a month. Great. Whatever you can do, save it.
Yeah.
Because like if you don't start, the longer you take to start, I mean, the less compounding you're going to see. And so start with whatever you can now. The earlier you can start, even with the least amount of money. Like if all you have is $50, start now. Start with 50. You don't have to wait till you can get to 500 a month to save. Start with 50 and grow that as income increases and you can lower expenses. Try to grow what you can set aside for investments. But it's the compounding over time that really you see the astronomical returns. And so that is my plea to everybody is please don't sit on cash. Yes, save money every single month, but use that money and start investing it somewhere so that inflation doesn't just eat you away.
Because it will.
It breaks my heart to see people that just save money and put it under their mattress. And it's like, man, they saved 10 grand. Well, now, 5 years later, you look at even just the last 5 years, if you would have saved 10 grand, well, you've lost 2,500 of that 10 grand. And how long did it take you to save 2,500? So it's like you're backtracking, like you're on this hamster wheel that you got to get off of it. The only way to get off of it is through investing. So
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Passionate about it for sure.
Yeah. If you guys have I know we covered a lot today. Some of it can kind of get in the weeds and complicated. If you have a question on that, shoot us a DM. And we'd love to kind of have a conversation, explain any of our thoughts. We'd love to also hear your feedback and your thoughts on anything that we shared. And if you have any topics that you want us to hit in the upcoming episodes, let us know. So, okay, we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the chase where the champions dwell. To the grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursue the wealth.